Boosting congregation numbers and appealing to a younger audience is an ongoing challenge for religious leaders, but one vicar's turned to the internet for a boost. Reverend Andrew Oldham has become the first vicar to tweet during his services. Our media and technology correspondent Katie Stallard is at St Paul's Church in Weston-super-Mare with the vicar in question. Katie.
We are, and we've named him the Twitter vicar, the Reverend Andrew Oldham here. It's a beautiful century-old church, but I think it's fair to say the service that has just taken place here was anything but traditional. It had its own hashtag, and the preacher was encouraging people to tweet him their questions and reading aloud tweets from the pulpit. Let's speak to the man in question here, the Reverend Andrew Oldham, as we've crowned you the Britain's first Twitter vicar.
Thank you.
So what is the thinking behind this? How are you using social media in the church here?
Well, our thinking is that the message of Jesus, although 2,000 years old, is as fresh today as it was when he first spoke. We simply want to use contemporary forms of communication to get that message out as far and as wide as we can.
In this church, in churches across the country, there is a real issue with congregations falling, isn't there, and reaching particular parts of the community. Is this really designed to target that?
Yes, it is, particularly young adults who are inherently suspicious of institutions. And when I think of Jesus, he was a brilliant communicator who painted images in people's minds using phrases that we still use today, like taking the plank out of your own eye or turning the other cheek. But those phrases weren't the message, they were the tools. The message was about him, who he was, and the offer of relationship with God that he gave. So we're simply trying to use those sort of modern media as he used those images.
How does this work in practice? I mean, we can see you here, you're not in your traditional robes today, and you're in the pulpit encouraging people to follow the hashtag and tweet you.
Well, we think styles of worship are very secondary, and the message was what's important. So we do have worship in a traditional Anglican way, but in the congregation that you witnessed earlier, we're trying to reach out to young people, young adults, young families who use social media all the time to communicate. So we want to hit them in that way.
Well, let's put that to the test. Let's go and speak to some of them. Over here we've got George Lightwood, who is an intern at the church here, an enthusiastic Twitterer. You've been collating tweets through the service. Can you just take us through some of the tweets that have been coming in over this Twitter Sunday service?
Well, as you see here, Johnny Oldham, who's the vicar's son, said, Mwamba, the power of prayer.
So there were references in the service
yes.
to Fabrice Mwamba and the Pray for Mwamba hashtag that developed.
Yeah. And as you look through here, so I tweeted a question about Tom's message, and then later on he responded to it, which is really cool because it gave me kind of a way in to kind of engage with what he was saying.
Does it change the feel of the sermons? For I guess a lot of your friends will think of church as pretty stuffy, going and listening to a vicar preach, but I guess this makes it interactive.
Yeah, it makes it much more kind of modern and innovative, I guess, because obviously my generation are really, they like to do lots of things at the same time, so for me to be able to tweet and listen to, someone preach.
I guess this is sort of a reflection of the way we're using media, that you're not just sitting at home watching television, you're messaging your friends, you're tweeting at the same time. Is this, I guess, the logical interpretation of that?
Yes, I think so, definitely.
And so, we can see them coming in. So you had your own hashtag today, which was St Paul's Weston-super-Mare, and you've got, just flick through the tweets there. Yeah.
It's all in, within the service, there's dozens. There's up to the end there.
And is it interactive? So you are tweeting from your seat, and how does it work? What happens?
So I'll tweet. So I tweeted here. You can see there my name, George Lightwood. And then if you type in the hashtag, you can see all the different tweets. And so I passed my iPad to Tom, and he looks at all these tweets and picks a few and responds to the questions that people have put forward in the congregation.
And does that encourage your friends to come? Do you think that reaches out to the younger generation?
I think so, yeah. I really think so. Yeah, it really helps them to feel like that their questions are valued and that their thoughts are catered for.
Thank you very much. We'll get back to your Twitter account and just show you on this pillar over here. If our cable will just stretch up here, this is not the sorry, just over this way slightly, Chris. This is not the today's Bible reading. This is the password for the church Wi-Fi, Abraham 123. So in this century-old church, technology very much at the forefront. And I should say, for the sake of equality, that this is not limited to the Church of England. I'm told the Pope has his own Twitter account, as does the Dalai Lama. The power of Twitter, it seems, now able to transcend religious boundaries.
Katie, very interesting. Thank you.
You're watching Sky News. Do stay with us. Coming up, tweeting the word of God. Find out about the vicar who's harnessing social media to get his message across. UK, increasing congregation numbers and appealing to a younger audience is an ongoing challenge for religious leaders. But one vicar in Weston-super-Mare has turned to the social networking for a boost. Our media and technology correspondent Katie Stallard has been finding out if it's working.
In the beginning there was a church in Weston-super-Mare, and its vicar looked at that church and he saw the congregation was falling. And lo, he created a Twitter account and set forth his message in 140 characters or fewer.
Write it in a tweet, send it out to your followers so that they can hear the good things that the Lord has done.
Inspired by his teenage sons and dressed in his jeans, the Reverend Andrew Alden is using the power of social media to spice up his sermons and reach out to new followers. Meet the country's first Twitter vicar.
I think it was the approach that Jesus took. He was creative, he was contemporary, he spoke to people in a way that they understood at that time. For us, the way to speak to people is through the media they use, which is Facebook, Twitter, YouTube.
This church is 100 years old, and the difficulty here, as across the country, is attracting younger followers. But with the band playing and the congregation clutching iPads and smartphones with their Bibles, they're trying to create a more modern, energetic feel. Pinned to the pillars, the note Abraham 123. No, not today's Bible reading, but the password to the church Wi-Fi.
What's happening here is a reflection of the way our attitudes to media are changing. In this church, they felt the traditional sermon with one man standing at the front and preaching was just a bit outdated. They wanted something more interactive, a bit more 21st century.
And it doesn't take long for the tweets to come flooding in.
Let's do a refresh. Can God be moved enough to change his plans for our lives? Getting into predestination right here on Sky News, that's big.
It certainly seems to go down well with the congregation.
My generation, they don't come to church because they think it's really just old-fashioned, outdated, and that's what they think of God. They think, oh, church is really boring, so they think God's boring. So obviously if they see church that's more with the times, so obviously, you know, we've got Twitter now, a bit more interactive, so people will be encouraged and think, oh, church is actually a bit more relevant for me.
And the advent of Twitter is not confined to the Church of England. The Pope has a Twitter account, though he's only actually tweeted 6 times. The Dalai Lama has nearly 4 million followers. Twitter, it seems, has the power to transcend religious boundaries. And generations. What started in this small Somerset church with Twitter Sunday, they hope, will inspire a new, younger following, using the power of social media to spread the word 140 characters at a time. Katie Stallard, Sky News, Weston-super-Mare.